Let's talk sleep training.
Let me go home. Home is wherever I'm with you.
All right, sleep training. So I want to share with you how we sleep train our kids. There was a question on YouTube recently after I posted the video, The Day in the Life with 3 kids under 5. I'll link that up there. I'm sure you can see that I just lay my baby, who is 14 months old now, to sleep, and she just goes to sleep, which is amazing, but it wasn't something that came naturally. I trained to that. So, and I've done that with all of my kids, more so the second 2. I focused it on that like a lot earlier on. My first, it took a little bit more, it was a little rougher, let's just say that. So I'm gonna share how we sleep train our kids and get our kids to sleep so good. I just lay them down, or I put Bram in his bed, I put Lola in her bed, and we say our prayers, say goodnight, and they go to sleep for the most part. You know, we have a little bit of naughtiness from time to time because they don't want to miss out on what's happening outside of their bedroom when mom and dad are trying to have alone time. But let's talk about sleep training and what I did. So my first is a lot different than the other 2, which is why I switched things up after my first, because I was a little bit saddened by my first experience sleep training my first child. So I have a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And my 4-year-old, I started sleep training her when she was 11 months old. And I use the Ferber method. So if you're not familiar, it's like the cry it out method. And you lay the baby down, you let them cry it out for 10 minutes. You go in there, you console them, let them know everything's okay, that they're loved and they're safe. And then you leave and you let them cry themselves to sleep again. If they don't fall asleep, you go in. It's like some people just like let them cry until they fall asleep, but I checked every 10 minutes. I paced outside of the front door, and I went in there every 10 minutes. Now this was the very first night that I did this, and it took her 25 minutes to go to sleep. So she cried for 10 minutes, I consoled her. She cried for another 10 minutes, I consoled her. She cried for 2 to 5 more minutes, and she went to sleep. That was the first night. It was so sad. Like I said, I paced outside of the door. I was crying on the other side of the door. It was awful. But then the second night came around, and she cried for under 10 minutes. I didn't even have to go in and console her. It was maybe 5 to 6-ish minutes she cried. And then the third night came around, and she just whined for under a minute, and she went to sleep. And the fourth night came around, she didn't whine at all. She just went right to sleep. So, and she's been the most incredible sleeper ever since. So that was what I did for my first. It was a tiny bit traumatic for me and for her, I'm sure. So I wanted to switch things up a little bit for the other 2. When my first was 11 months old, I took the Taking Care of Babies class, and that's online. It is a really nice class. She does an amazing job talking about sleep training babies. She was a nurse, she's a mom, and she's got some incredible resources and wisdom to share about children and sleep training children. So that is what worked for us with my first, that got her to go to sleep, but I wanted to switch things up and do things a little bit differently and a little softer with the other kids. So for my second and third babies, I started sleep training them when they were about 6 months old. So for the newborn stage and all the way up until 6 months, I just fed them on demand. They slept when they wanted to, and they woke when they wanted to. I did have a 3-hour max nap rule during the day because I wanted them to differentiate the day versus the night. I didn't want them to get confused. And I wanted them to sleep more at night than during the day. So I would never let my babies nap for longer than 3 hours. I would feed them, and I would wake them and feed them after the 3-hour mark of them being asleep. Or it was 3 hours since they last ate. So that's what I did during the day. At nighttime, I just let them sleep through the night if they wanted to, which newborns don't really. They wake up because they're hungry and they're itty bitty. But that's kind of what I did. At 6 months, I started sleep training my second 2, so my 2-year-old and now 1-year-old, at 6 months old. At 6 months old, what I did was I started, instead of rocking them to sleep or nursing them to sleep, I would lay them down to bed when they were dreary and drowsy and sleepy, but not fully asleep. So they were still awake. So they knew where they were when I laid them down in their bed. I wanted them to be comfortable in their bed and know where they were and not wake up and be startled, where am I? So I I started doing that at 6 months old, and I just would like do it a little bit earlier, like lay them down in their bed until they're like fully awake and alert. When I'm laying them in their bed, they're not like drowsy at all. It's bedtime, but they're not like, you know, milk drunk baby. So I started that at 6 months old. And I just like kept that up until they slept through the night. They ended up sleeping through the night, both of them, all of my kids around like 11 months old. But it was such a softer transition for those babies to start that process at 6 months old. And it just was, it's very simple just to lay them down while they're drowsy. And I didn't let the kids cry it out when they were like 6 months old. I just like comforted them, maybe rocked them a little bit like with my hand on their butt, and then like left the room. And then it was like, I just did that a little earlier, and that seemed to work for us. I nursed the kids like all throughout the night if they wanted to, like on demand, until they were like 11 months old. All of my kids are very close in age. They're all under 17 months apart. So by the time my kids are 11 months old, I'm already pregnant again, and I'm exhausted because I'm growing another baby and I need a little bit more sleep. So around the 11-month-ish mark is when my kids, typically, I like wean them from the middle of the night eating, because they're eating real food now. They're eating like lots of real food now. I'm stuffing them full of protein and fats all throughout the day, especially like at nighttime before they go to bed. So they're very, very satiated and full and happy. And I think it only took like, I don't know, 1 to 3 nights of them like kind of fussing a little bit in the night, not crying, screaming, but like just fussing a little bit in the night to like get rid of that nighttime feed, and then it was done. But that is kind of what I did. Again, there's no like golden like one ticket way to sleep train your kids, but I think it worked really well for us, for me to start that process at 6 months old. And it wasn't fast, it wasn't overnight, wasn't like sleep train your kids in a weekend or what have you. It took a while. My situation is I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I have the time to gradually sleep train the kids. I don't have to have everybody up out the door for school, me to work, things like that. So that's what worked for us, laying them down in their bed awake so that they get comfortable putting themselves to sleep and soothing themselves. And it really does, when they're ready to drop their nighttime feeds, it helps a lot because they're already comfortable with self-soothing when they go to bed. So that really helped us. That's kind of what we did to tie in with sleep training. I'll tell you about a couple different things that we use. At the beginning of the baby stage, at the newborn stage, I swaddle my kids, and I swaddle them until they are starting to like roll over from side to side or whatever, and it's not safe anymore to have them swaddled. They need their arms. So then I transition them to a what we call it a sleeping bag, but it's a sleep sack, so their arms are out and it just like covers the rest of their body. I love ours. It's like a down one. It's so cozy and comfy. All of my kids have used it, but we do that, and then we also do pacifiers. So we do pacifiers, sleep sacks, and we do sound machines. All of my kids still use a sound machine. We use the white noise, and I have one that stays in their bedrooms that is like, this stays here at home, and then I have a really small travel size one that we take with us when we travel as well. And that's what we do to sleep train our kids. All of our kids are amazing sleepers. Again, it did not happen overnight. By the time they were 11 months old, they were good sleepers. So it took a while. There was almost an entire year of not sleeping through the night and working to get them to put themselves to sleep. But it's so worth it and so rewarding because all of my kids are incredible sleepers. They're just like the best. And I've talked to many, many moms that really struggle with sleep time and getting their kids to go to sleep and staying in their bed. So this has really truly worked for us. I sleep with my kids until they're like about 6 months old, and then I transition to them to their crib so they're like comfortable with it when they're like 6 months old. I sleep with them because I get more sleep when they're sleeping with me until that 6-month mark. Just because I have to nurse them so frequently. And then when I transition them to their crib, I actually keep them in my bedroom. They're like right next to me. And then once they hit that like 11-ish month mark, I move the crib into their own bed. So that is what I feel comfortable with, and that's what we do. Again, this is not for everyone. Everyone's gonna have their own opinions on how to sleep train their kids, but that is what I do. So if you guys have any other questions about sleep training the kids or what products we use or what have you, drop them in the comments below and I will try to get those answered. Thank you so much for watching this week's video, and we will see you next time.